Hi guys, during this short session we're going to look at how to set your prices for maximum advantage. We're going to look at the 9 most common ways people fail at price, the 2 elements that link product to price, how to set price and how to communicate price rises. So let's get going. In your business you make many decisions on what you're going to sell, who you're going to sell to, where you're going to sell it, but perhaps the most important decision you make is on price, because decisions you make on price and how you present that price affects nearly everything in your business. Think about it. Your price determines what kind of customers you can attract and what they think about you. Many a business has been completely turned around by increasing their prices and changing the types of customers they attract. The kind of staff that want to work with you and their attitude. McDonald's has an unenviable reputation of providing McJobs, for example. Your position in the market and how your competitors act towards you, your credibility, your desirability, and most importantly of all, your profit. Because your profit determines how aggressively and widely you can market what you do. Poor pricing decisions lead to poor margins, which ultimately determines your market spend. This also determines how much love you can give your customers. The more love, the more loyalty you will get from your customers. How well you can pay and incentivize your staff. And here's a really big one. How much money you can take out of the business, because that really determines your lifestyle. So, it's really important you think about what you charge and why, because the bottom line is you choose your prosperity by the choices you make on price. So let's look at the 9 common ways people fail at price. Number 1. Using textbook formulas, industry norms or other standard means. There are lots of reasons why this is a big fail, but perhaps the biggest single reason this is a fail is that it simply ignores what people will actually pay for something. It's based around cost rather than value. The second way people fail at pricing is excessive concerns about competitors' lower prices. These are useful to know, but not to react to. Getting yourself into a price war is a really quick way to go bust, because the winner is usually the one with the deepest pockets. The third way people fail at pricing is by attracting customers who buy on price. This virtually guarantees a low profit. Also, customers who are attracted by your lower price will soon jump to your competitors when they offer a price advantage. Fourthly, having a predetermined belief system about what they'll pay. Never prejudge. You are not your customer. So if you're thinking, well, I wouldn't pay that for my goods or services, then you're either in the wrong business or selling the wrong things. Number 5. Allowing apples to apples comparisons. If your marketing message is so bad that your prospect only ever receives information on price, then it's the only deciding factor they can use for their decisions. And why would anybody pay more for the same goods or services? Which leads us on to number 6. No price differentiation. The airlines and railway companies excel at this. I'm willing to bet that on any plane journey, almost no 2 passengers have paid the same price, yet they travel on the same plane at the same time, eat the same meals and arrive at the same destination. The airlines and railway companies reward customers who buy their tickets in advance with lower prices and penalise latecomers with huge price differentiations. Number 7. Not offering a premium product. It's a simple fact that some customers, about 20%, will always buy the top of the range product. So if you only have a single line, you're missing out on these. Oh, and by the way, offering an entry-level product for first-time buyers will also help you gain traction. Which leads us on to number 8. Because if you are to offer different versions of your products, goods or services, then you really need to know your numbers. Groupon has been blamed for businesses losing money, But if those business owners knew their numbers inside out, then there wouldn't have been a problem. So ignorance or stupidity about business maths is a killer. Finally, and perhaps the saddest of all our reasons, is poor self-esteem or business esteem, or feeling of not deserving of more. I could go into the many reasons why people have poor esteem or poor business esteem, but that's not a topic for today. So there you have our 9 most common ways people fail at pricing in their business. Be honest and reflect on how you set your prices. How many of you are currently guilty of at least one of these? The thing is that unless you're in a heavily regulated industry where prices are set by some other body such as the government, then your prices are your responsibility and your choice, and it's up to you to know as much as you can about setting your price. Let me ask you this question. Are you average? I'm willing to bet that nearly everyone listening to this session will say no, my product or service is the best on the market. They'll be saying that we try harder, we have the best people, etc., etc. Yet the prices don't reflect this. So your price is average. If what you deliver isn't truly unique and special, how can you charge anything but average prices? Who's going to pay more if they can get the same or cheaper elsewhere? If you're not unique, then you are just a commodity. And we all know that as soon as you start thinking of what you do as a commodity, you'll start to hemorrhage money. Let's think about commodities for a few minutes. Let's talk coffee. We all agree coffee is a commodity. It's even traded on the commodities market. So, I could go to Tesco's and buy a jar of their everyday value coffee for about 50p for 100 grams. Or I could go to Starbucks and buy 100 grams of their Blonde Willow blend for £1.76, nearly 4 times as much as Tesco's. Or I could buy Alta Rica from Nescafe for £4.96 for 100 grams, nearly 10 times the price of Tesco's. Finally, I could push the boat out and buy Bantai Civet coffee, otherwise known as Capo coffee, for £22 for 100 grams, or 44 times the Tesco's price. So that's coffee. Everything from 50p to £22 and everything in between. What about the £130 per head meal, or the £300 pair of jeans, or the £20,000 family holiday, or the £2,500 photographer, or the £120 an hour trainer, or the £250 an hour physio? So don't tell me you can't change commodity thinking, because if everything was based on commodity thinking, none of these businesses would have been able to charge these prices. So let's have a look what binds product to price. There are 2 elements that link product to price. One of them is in your prospect's mind and the other is in yours. And the important thing is, both have to be changed before you can really start to price for profit. So to start that process, here are the 3 areas we need to examine that link product to price. They are the buyer, the seller, and finally, the context of the sale. We're going to look at each of the areas in turn. So first of all, who's buying? Did you know that parents spend way more on baby 1 than baby 2 or 3? Think about it. The new mom, dad to be are really excited. They want everything to be perfect for their new arrival. By the time they get to the 2nd or 3rd, the novelty is worn off and they just buy the essentials. So if you have a baby wear shop, you'd make far more targeting new mums than those who already have 2 or 3 kids. So targeting the right buyer can be crucial in determining your prices. Number 2 on our list is who's selling. We put a lot of emphasis on product, proposition and price, and rightly so. But never underestimate the importance of the prospect perception of the seller, because 2 different people can present exactly the same proposition to the same prospect, and one can meet great resistance and the other unquestioning acceptance. This is why having somebody who understands the sales process and is skilled at selling can and does make a huge difference to the prices you can achieve. Let's now look at the context of the sale. Everybody knows that umbrellas cost more in the rain. This is because the context of the sale has changed and the prospect's need to avoid getting wet has increased due to the rain. But how about this for an example? Take a glass of wine. You could have a glass in the Ritz Hotel in London, or a high street cocktail bar, or even the local pub. You would expect to pay different amounts at each venue because of the context of the sale. So at the Ritz, a glass could cost you between £15 and £20. At a high street cocktail bar, between £7 and £10. At the local pub, between £4.50 and £7. Bearing in mind, you could go to the local supermarket and buy a bottle, probably between £5 and £10. But the point here is that the price is governed by the expectations of the consumer, based largely on where they are and where they are buying it, and the expertise of the salesperson. This is the same a glass of wine. All that has changed is the context of the sale. So how do we use this to our advantage? Well, here's a great example from the States where a chiropractor managed to increase his prices from $2,000 to $5,000 for a course of treatment overnight. First of all, he introduced a closing room. So rather than telling the prospective patient the price in the treatment room, he introduced a closing room where the prospect watched a video describing the treatment. Secondly, the chiropractor started wearing a shirt and tie and a doctor's white coat, positioning himself as preeminent medical specialist. All this resulted in a 250% price increase with no change in product and with no change in closing ratio. However, it is worth noting that even if the chiropractor's closing ratio dropped by half, he would have still been better off by $3,000 per patient. So we've covered the three areas: the buyer, the seller, and the context of the sale. But think about this key fact. If you build your business going after anybody, it's almost impossible not to sell on price. You have to be something to somebody in order to sell on value. If you want to know how to profile your perfect customer, drop me an email to info@johnoliver.co.uk and I'll send you a customer profiling tool for free. I'll repeat this again at the end of this webinar. The thing about attracting customers on price alone is that 80% of buyers attracted this way can only be kept coming back in the same way. I think the sales guru Jeffrey Gitomer said it best when Jeffrey said, "A satisfied customer is worthless, whereas a loyal customer is priceless." And loyalty is based on value delivered, not on price. There's a concept in economics called price elasticity. And price elasticity is all about how sensitive your customers are to price changes. The more elastic your prices are, the more sensitive your customers are to price changes. So the key is to make your product or service price inelastic, and this is achieved by making it unique and valuable. Because price elasticity has much more to do with the customer than with the product. So the thing to think about is, what is your unique proposition to them? So let's start thinking about value rather than price. So most businesses base their thinking on pricing mainly on their cost. They think about their employment cost, they think about their fixed cost, they think about their variable costs in terms of materials and things like that. However, smart businesses base their thinking on pricing mainly on the value they deliver to customers. Think about this. You can charge twice as much if you deliver 4 times the value. Delivering 4 times the value is not necessarily all about delivering 4 times the quantity. Here's a great example from Disney, the Disney VIP Guide. A few years ago, Disney realized they were missing out on thousands of extra dollars a day. All they needed to do was introduce the Disney VIP Guide. Those lucky customers that can afford a guide and B, are lucky enough to have one assigned, get priority access to the same rides, see the same shows, eat at the same restaurants. They can even buy the same souvenirs. They do get backstage access and to see behind the scenes, but at $315 to $500 per hour, this delivers completely different value to different customers. The customers get status, they show off, speed and convenience. It's less tiring and stressful. They're able to do more, so the holiday is a lot more valuable. So how much was this little change worth to Disney? Well, let's have a look. So let's assume Disney have 50 guides at each park and they sell them out for 5 hours per day. A low ball estimate, I think you'll agree. So that's 50 guides, 5 hours, $500 per hour equals $125,000 per day per park. So let's assume this is available just 200 days per year. That's $125,000 times 200 equals $25 million per park. Disney have 4 parks in Florida alone. I think you'll find that's $100 million. The big point here is don't leave out the intangibles. So how do you go about setting your prices? Here are 5 ways I've seen it done. Number 1, WAG, wild ass guess. This is where people have no idea what their costs are or will be, or what value the customer will derive from their goods or services. This situation can of course be avoided with a little market research and testing. The second way is industry norms. The problem with this is it ignores the costs and profits of the business being copied. This means you have no real clue what your customers really value. And think about this, today's norms were yesterday's innovations, particularly in the pricing field. Number 3 in our ways of setting price is perhaps my least favourite of all, and that's client dictated pricing. This is where you let your client decide on how much they will pay. It ignores the difference between any customers and the right customers. It ignores the values of salesmanship and forgets that there is a big difference between what people say they will do and what they actually do. Number 4, cost plus pricing. This is very popular with businesses that deal with the public sector and is slightly more advanced, but customers don't really care about your costs. They don't care about your profits either. They care about the value they receive. That's it. Cost plus constricts how you can think. It focuses on cost, not value. It ignores volume. It ignores opportunity costs. Finally, number 5. Number 5 is all about targeted return. Work backwards from what you want to earn in that month. It may be that you want a revenue of, say, £100,000 that month. Then look at the number of transactions you need to make and at what price you need to sell at to hit your income target. This becomes a question of, do you change the hours you work or the price you sell at or the products you sell? The important part is that you achieve the return that you want. For a lot of people, this shows them that their pricing strategy cannot produce the income they want. I remember a classic case where I was doing a group coaching session and we had one person who shall remain nameless, but they were earning as little as 30p an hour once they started looking really deeply at their pricing and their numbers. Don't be that person. So let's now look at how you can raise your prices without losing any customers. I bet that when I mention raising your prices, an alarm goes off in your head saying that if I raise my prices, I'll immediately lose all of my customers, or at least a vast majority of them. That explains why more than 90% of all small businesses attempt to compete on price alone. But what if we could change that for you? Here are 2 strategies to instantly raise your prices with no significant impact on your overall number of customers. First, consider the psychological barrier of price. This refers to the overall perception price can play in your prospect's decision-making process. Before we do that, here's a word of warning. If you attempt to increase the first digit in your price, you may hit a major psychological barrier and run into trouble. A price of 1,870 can be increased to 1,877 or even 1,897 with little or no pushback. But moving it to 1,997 might incur some resistance. However, a price increase to 2,000 or more will most likely have a negative impact on sales. This is because your prospect sees 1877 and 1897 as being very similar in nature. However, once you increase the first digit from a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3, then your prospect notices something significant has happened. Continuing in this same vein, any price you currently charge that ends with a 0 through 6, such as £90 through 96, increase that price so it ends with a 7, 8 or 9, such as 97, 98 or 99. You will typically meet with zero resistance when doing this and, more importantly, zero impact on your conversion rates. If you're apprehensive, try a small test over a 1-day period. If you see pushback from your customers, you can elect to immediately go back to your original price. The second strategy is the across the board or across a product service strategy. You increase your price by putting up all your products or services by a specific percentage, say 7%. But before you take action, research your competition. The key here is to determine the uniqueness of your product or service, including the delivery method. If you're unique, a price increase can be easily implemented without suffering any adverse effects. Firstly, identify your competitors who provide the same or a similar product or service. Who do you compete with during your normal workday? Take notes, write down their names and what they offer, special deals they offer, their various marketing and advertising offers. Collect their ads, sign on to their mailing list, visit their stores, walk their aisles, ask them questions, make notes on how their staff treat you. Then ask yourself the following questions. What prices do you charge for your primary products or services? When was the last time you raised your prices? How do your prices compare with your competitors? How does your product or service compare with your competitors? Do you provide any value-added services that your customers perceive that makes your product more valuable? Then ask yourself the following questions. Is it easy for clients to price shop when they buy what you sell? Do you know your competitors' biggest weaknesses or failings? Do you or can you specifically compensate for that failing so you gain vital market share? What would you estimate the impact would be on your sales conversion rate if you raised your prices just by 3%? What would your increased profit be if you raise your price by 3% while maintaining your current conversion rate? Earlier I mentioned that most people have excess concerns about their competitors' lower prices. The problem is that most people don't know enough about their competitors. You need to be mystery shopping your competitors so that you know their business inside out. As a final thought on how to increase your prices without losing any customers, have a think about this, because you need to move from the me orientated thought process that says, how am I going to get more clients, to the you orientated thought process that says, how much more value can I add? A rule of business is that the more value you give, the more money you will make. If you were perceived by the marketplace as the one who offered the most value for that price, who do you think would get the lion's share of the business? It would be you. Let's now talk about how to communicate your price increases. Prospects buy based on emotion, but they justify it with logic. You'll have heard that many times before, but that doesn't change its validity. It's still as valid today as it's always been. So, when you raise your prices, your success will be greater if you communicate to your customers the reasons why. If you let the customer in on the reasoning, they will be more inclined to do business with you. Don't underestimate the power of the word because. So, although I'm raising my prices by £3, it's still great value because I'm including a 100% no questions asked guarantee. I'm including this additional service. My expenses went up by the same amount due to X. I've upgraded the quality of my staff so we can serve you better. I've invested in additional funds to streamline your buying process. I've added technical support or live customer support. I've upgraded my product or service so you get far greater value for your money, or a higher ROI if that's the language your prospects use. Never forget that testing is the key component when it comes to raising your prices safely and successfully. There's no need to risk your financial future when you have the power and the ability to attempt a small test. The purpose of testing is to demand maximum performance from every marketing action. When you test one piece against another, you'll be amazed how one price can produce significant changes in your profits. You won't know it until you test. But my business is different. People just won't pay more. I hear this all the time, and I think of it as the rallying cry of the poor. Anybody can come up with a long list of reasons why they can't implement the best strategies for their business. But the thing is, if you look around you, you can see strategies for improving your pricing and your business everywhere. Look how the printer manufacturers adopted the same strategy as the shaving business, i.e. almost giving away the printer or the shaving handle and focus on selling ink/replacement blades. You can see creative adaptation all around you, and creative adaptation is the behaviour of the successful. One last thought. Even under adverse economic pressure, the majority of buyers are motivated by factors other than pricing, and the path to prosperity is rarely price cutting. Here's the problem. Too many business owners are too busy working in their business to implement even the simplest of strategies. They spend their time doing the do rather than building their business. They want something different, but either don't know what to do or think that these simple business laws don't apply in their industry. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be like this. You can change. It just takes three things: knowledge, action, and accountability. Hi, my name is John Olivant, and I've been helping businesses across Yorkshire, like yours, generate additional revenue in their business for the last 5 years, and in that time, I've helped hundreds of them. Now I want to help you. My £10,000 challenge. I will personally meet with you either face to face or online by screen share, do a complete assessment of your business, identify the areas within your business where you can generate at least £10,000 in additional revenue without spending an additional penny on marketing or advertising in just 45 minutes. Just go to www.helpingyorkshirebusinesses.co.uk to find out more and to sign up. I'm also giving away copies of my book, Implementation: The Art of Success, how you too can create a business that works for you, not the other way around. All you need to do to get a copy is just call 01482 408 585 and ask for your copy. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've really enjoyed this webinar. Any questions, feel free to email me at info@johnolivant.co.uk. Thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day.